So today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to crack open a real-world critical care plan to really understand the minute-by-minute battle to save a life. This isn't a textbook case, you know? This is the actual blueprint doctors are using when absolutely everything is on the line. Let's dive in. Okay, so we're diving right into the heart of the ICU, looking at this incredibly complex, coordinated fight happening right now for just one patient. This is really a story about medicine pushed to its absolute limit, where, the human body literally becomes a battlefield. And right off the bat, here's something you need to know. We're not starting this story on day 1. We are jumping into this crisis on day 27. So this isn't some sudden emergency that just happened. No, this is a month-long, grueling war of attrition. So, you might be wondering, what started all of this? It was a catastrophic event called a subarachnoid hemorrhage. It's basically a massive, life-threatening bleed right on the surface of the brain. And that was the first domino to fall, the one that set off everything we're about to see. All right, let's put a face to this case, so to speak. We're talking about a 62-year-old man, and like we said, he is nearly a full month into this fight. Every single number, every decision we're going to look at, it's all focused on one thing, keeping him alive. You see, that initial brain bleed, it wasn't just a single event. It set off this devastating chain reaction. So the medical team isn't just fighting one problem anymore. They're fighting a whole cascade of system failures. The brain is still in danger, his lungs are infected, his kidneys are failing, and his blood can't even clot right. This isn't a one-problem situation. It is, quite literally, a multi-front war. So, even with all of that chaos happening in the body, guess what the number one priority is? It's still the brain. The team's primary mission now is to defend it from a second crisis, one that sneaks up days after the first hit. And here it is. This is the new enemy, delayed cerebral ischemia, or DCI. What happens is, days after that initial bleed, the brain's blood vessels just start to spasm and clamp down. It's this really insidious counterattack that basically chokes off blood flow, and it can cause a whole other massive stroke. So how in the world do you fight something like that? Well, with a two-pronged attack. On one side, you have medication, this drug Nimodipine, given around the clock, trying to get those vessels to just relax. And then, on the other hand, you've got this, well, it's a brute force approach. They deliberately crank the patient's blood pressure way, way up to physically force blood through those tightening arteries. And this chart really shows you what that looks like in practice. Look at that goal, a systolic blood pressure of 190. Now, for you or me, that would be terrifyingly high, right? But in this case, it's a calculated, necessary risk. It's the only weapon they have to force that life-giving blood into a brain that's under siege. Okay, but here's the thing. While everyone is laser-focused on the brain, the rest of the body is just screaming for help. That initial shock, plus all these aggressive treatments, has triggered that domino effect we talked about. Let's really dig into how this whole cascade plays out. First up, the kidneys. That number, 2.7, that's a huge red flag. It's the kidneys waving a white flag, saying, we can't do this anymore. The body's entire filtration system is officially breaking down. This is acute kidney injury. Then you've got the blood itself. An INR of 2.8, that is seriously high. What that means is the blood has become dangerously thin. It can't clot. Even a tiny, minor bleed could turn into a total disaster. This is called coagulopathy. And if that wasn't enough, we have the lungs. Because this man has been on a ventilator for so long, a very serious infection has taken root. It's confirmed ventilator-associated pneumonia. So just to recap, the brain is under attack, the kidneys are failing, the blood won't clot, and now the body is trying to fight off a massive lung infection. It's an absolute siege. So faced with this catastrophic multi-organ failure, what does the ICU team do? They launch a massive, coordinated counterattack. And this is where you really see the full power and the sheer complexity of modern critical care. And this table, wow. This is just a tiny snapshot of the arsenal of medications being pumped into this patient. You've got a drug for the brain, a heavy hitter antibiotic for the lungs, sedation to let the brain rest, and then drugs to precisely control that high blood pressure. Every single one is a tightrope walk, a careful calculation. And you got to understand, this isn't something you can just set up and walk away from. Not even close. It is absolutely relentless vigilance. I mean, they're checking his vitals and his neuro status every single hour. Key lab work gets drawn multiple times a day. The patient is, for all intents and purposes, living under a microscope 24/7. And then, every single day, the whole team gets together, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, you name it, for a strategy meeting. They go through the body system by system, asking these questions. The key takeaway here is that this plan isn't some static document. It's a living, breathing strategy that they adjust constantly based on how the patient's body is responding. So, after all of this, after the initial crisis, the cascade of complications, this incredible high-tech medical response, we get to the hardest part, the future. This is that moment where the hard science runs right up against the deeply, deeply human reality of it all. And this chart, it really paints a picture of why the future is so guarded. It's not just one thing. It's the severity of the first bleed, plus the fact that DCI developed, plus the multi-organ failure, plus his age. Each one of these things is another heavy weight stacked on the scale, making a good outcome just incredibly difficult. And in the medical chart, after pages and pages of data and notes, the team boils all of this complexity down to just 2 words: prognosis guarded. That's it. It's a phrase that says we're doing everything we can, but we honestly don't know. It is the very definition of medical uncertainty. And that really leaves us with this final and, I think, profound question. We've seen the plan. It's clear, it's aggressive, it's full of data and targets, but how do you take all of that clinical certainty and use it to have a conversation with the family about a future that is completely, terrifyingly unclear?